I took Delta Air Lines Boeing 767 from JFK Airport to Madrid to start my first-time Europe trip. I would spend 25 days visiting 15 to 16 cities or towns in 4 countries, mostly in Spain. I arrived at JFK Airport during the night on Monday, November 18, 2024. John F. Kennedy International Airport is a major international airport serving New York City and its metropolitan area. JFK Airport is located on the southwestern shore of Long Island, in Queens, New York City, bordering Jamaica Bay. It is the busiest of the 7 airports in the New York airport system, the 6th busiest airport in the United States, and the busiest international commercial airport in North America. The airport, which covers 5,200 acres, 2,104 hectares, is the largest in the New York metropolitan area. Over 90 airlines operate from JFK Airport, with nonstop or direct flights to destinations on all 6 inhabited continents. I am a regular customer of Delta Air Lines. I have tokaed their planes to visit Canada last year. I hope I can safely arrive at Madrid Airport after staying on the Boeing 767 plane for 6 hours. The plane is big, but there are not so many passengers. So, some passengers took the empty seats as their beds to sleep. I am not lucky to sit on a side seat that is 2 seats side by side. I could not sleep on my 2 seats. I know it is impossible for me to sleep on the floor of an airplane. Staying 6 hours on a plane is not a big challenge for me. This is the shortest way from the United States to Europe because I live in Connecticut. On our 6 hours journey, they offer 2 times food service. 1 time is formal meal, and another time is snack with variety of drinks. I chose a cup of beer, which could help me to sleep. Let me introduce Delta Air Lines Boeing 767 service across the Atlantic between USA and Madrid, Spain. They have a couple of accidents, including a tire failure, a bird strike, and oxygen leaking. Tire failure. On one occasion, a Delta Air Lines Boeing 767-332ER returned to Madrid-Barajas Airport, MAD, after a tire failure during takeoff. The right rear wheel of the main landing gear blew out, which punctured the left wing and damaged hydraulic lines. The crew declared an emergency and landed on runway 32L. Bird strike. On another occasion, a Delta Air Lines Boeing 767-300 returned to Madrid after a bird strike while en route from Madrid to Atlanta. The plane was about 500 nautical miles off the coast of Spain and Portugal when the crew decided to return. A Delta Air Lines Boeing 767-300, registration N192DN, performing flight DL-109 from Madrid, SP, Spain, to Atlanta, Georgia, USA, was en route at FL-310 overhead the Atlantic around 500 nanometers off the coast of Spain/Portugal about 2 hours into the flight, when the crew decided to return to Madrid. The airplane landed safely in Madrid. A bird strike is a dangerous matter. If 1 or more birds are ingested into one engine, nobody can say what is happening inside. Even if all parameters are currently normal, some problems may arise hours or even days after. The best thing to do is an inspection, and this can be done only on the ground. The problem is that there is no policy for bird strikes. There are state and airline policies for wind shear, volcanic ashes, meteor factors, e.g. crosswind, but nothing for wildlife strikes. The policy should be, if there is a reported bird hazard, do not take off. But if you take off and hit a bird, return immediately. A passenger reported that they were already enjoying meal service when the crew explained they had encountered a bird strike while climbing 1,000 feet out of Madrid, but thought there had been no damage. The crew became concerned, however, when vibrations started later into the flight and decided to return to Madrid. The flight was subsequently canceled. Boeing 767 fleet. Delta Air Lines operate all Boeing 767 models, including the -200, -300, -300ER, and -400ER. Delta plans to retire its Boeing 767 fleet by the end of 2030. Oxygen leaking. A Delta Air Lines Boeing 767-300, registration N1201P, performing flight DL-109 from Madrid, SP, Spain, to Atlanta, Georgia, USA, with 211 people on board, was en route at FL-340 over the Atlantic Ocean, about 300 nanometers north Bermuda, and 450 nanometers southeast of New York, when the crew declared emergency, reporting the crew oxygen had depleted due to a leak. They were executing oceanic contingency procedures to descend to 10,000 feet. The aircraft subsequently set course towards New York JFK, where the aircraft landed safely about 90 minutes later. Incident: Delta B-763 over Atlantic on November 27, 2013. Loss of oxygen crew. The Boeing 767 is an American wide-body airliner developed and manufactured by Boeing Commercial Airplanes. The aircraft was launched as the 7x7 program on July 14, 1978. The prototype first flew on September 26, 1981, and it was certified on July 30, 1982. The initial 767-200 variant entered service on September 8, 1982, with United Airlines, and the extended-range 767-200ER in 1984. It was stretched into the 767-300 in October 1986, followed by the extended-range 767-300ER in 1988. The most popular variant, the 767-300F, a production freighter version, debuted in October 1995. It was stretched again into the 767-400ER from September 2000. Designed to complement the larger 747, it has a 7-abreast cross-section accommodating smaller LD2 ULD cargo containers. The 767 is Boeing's first wide-body twin-jet, powered by General Electric CF6, Rolls-Royce RB211, or Pratt & Whitney JT9D turbofans. JT9D engines were eventually replaced by PW4000 engines. The aircraft has a conventional tail and a supercritical wing for reduced aerodynamic drag. Its two-crew glass cockpit, a first for a Boeing airliner, was developed jointly for the 757- a narrow-body aircraft, allowing a common pilot type rating. Studies for a higher-capacity 767 in 1986 led Boeing to develop the larger 777 twin-jet, introduced in June 1995. Initially marketed for transcontinental routes, a loosening of ETOPS rules, starting in 1985, allowed the aircraft to operate transatlantic flights. A total of 742 of these aircraft were in service in July 2018, with Delta Air Lines being the largest operator with 77 aircraft in its fleet. As of December 2024, Boeing received 1,430 orders from 74 customers, of which 1,321 airplanes have been delivered, while the remaining orders are for cargo or tanker variants. Competitors have included the Airbus A300, A310, and A330-200. People also ask, can a 767 cross the Atlantic? By the end of the decade, 767s crossed the Atlantic more frequently than all other aircraft types combined. The 767 also propelled the growth of point-to-point flights, which bypassed major airline hubs in favor of direct routes. How old are Delta 767s? 28.5 years. What happened to the Boeing 767? Boeing will cease production of its Boeing 767 freighter in 2027, marking the end of the line for its workhorse twin-engine, wide-body airplane built in Everett. Boeing CEO Kelly Ortberg announced Friday, October 11, 2024. Why is Boeing 767 so popular? First introduced in 1982, the 767 quickly became a workhorse for United and other airlines. Its computer-aided flight deck, the introduction of ETOPS, and its ability as a platform to adapt and change for multiple mission profiles over more than 40 years has made it a mainstay in fleets around the world. May 11, 2023. How much is a Boeing 767 worth? Boeing 767-200 charter, rental cost, and hourly rate. The average hourly rental rate of Boeing 767-200 is around $27,250 per hour. The average purchase price of a new Boeing 767-200 is $217 million. The average purchase price of a pre-owned Boeing 767-200 is $9 million. How much does it cost to fly a 767 per hour? Boeing 767-300ER private charter flights and prices. The average hourly rental rate of the Boeing 767-300ER is around $22,900 per hour. The average purchase price of a pre-owned Boeing 767-300ER is $2 million. Which airline operates the most 767? Delta. Delta has operated all Boeing 767 models, -200, -300, -300ER, and -400ER, and currently flies the world's largest 767 airline fleet. In 1982, Delta's first 767-200 aircraft offered wide-body convenience and comfort. Boeing 767 planes have how many accidents so far? The Gimli glider, CJUN, parked at Mojave Air and Spaceport in February 2008. As of February 2024, the Boeing 767 has been in 67 aviation occurrences, including 19 hull loss accidents. 7 fatal crashes, including 3 hijackings, have resulted in a total of 854 occupant fatalities. Accidents. The airliner's first fatal crash, Delta Air Flight 004, occurred near Bangkok on May 26, 1991, following the in-flight deployment of the left engine thrust reverser on a 767-300ER. None of the 223 aboard survived. As a result of this accident, all 767 thrust reversers were deactivated until a redesign was implemented. 191 investigators determined that an electronically controlled valve, common to late-model Boeing aircraft, was to blame. 192, a new locking device was installed on all affected jetliners, including 767s. On October 31, 1999, Egypt Air Flight 990, a 767-300ER, crashed off Nantucket, Massachusetts, in international waters, killing all 217 people on board. The United States National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, concluded not determined, but determined the probable cause to be a deliberate action by the first officer. The Egyptian government disputed this conclusion. On April 15, 2002, Air China Flight 129, a 767-200ER, crashed into a hill amid inclement weather while trying to land at Gimhae International Airport in Busan, South Korea. The crash resulted in the death of 129 of the 166 people on board, and the cause was attributed to pilot error. This was the deadliest plane crash in South Korea at the time. On February 23, 2019, Atlas Air Flight 3591, a Boeing 767-300 ERF air freighter operating for Amazon Air, crashed into Trinity Bay near Houston, Texas, while on descent into George Bush Intercontinental Airport. Both pilots and the single passenger were killed. The cause was attributed to pilot error and spatial disorientation. Hull losses. On November 1, 2011, LOT Polish Airlines Flight 16, a 767-300ER, safely landed at Warsaw Chopin Airport in Warsaw, Poland, after a mechanical failure of the landing gear forced an emergency landing with the landing gear retracted. There were no injuries, but the aircraft involved were damaged and written off. At the time, aviation analysts speculated that it may have been the first instance of a complete landing gear failure in the 767 service history. 202 subsequent investigation determined that while a damaged hose had disabled the aircraft's primary landing gear extension system, an otherwise functional backup system was inoperative due to an accidentally deactivated circuit breaker. On October 29, 2015, Dynamic Airways Flight 405, a 767-200ER, caught fire while taxiing to the runway at Hollywood International Airport. There were no fatalities, but 22 people were injured, one of them seriously. The aircraft was written off. On October 28, 2016, American Airlines Flight 383, a 767-300ER with 161 passengers and 9 crew members, aborted takeoff at Chicago O'Hare Airport following an uncontained failure of the right GECF6-80C2 engine. The engine failure, which hurled fragments over a considerable distance, caused a fuel leak, resulting in a fire under the right wing. 205 fire and smoke entered the cabin. All passengers and crew evacuated the aircraft, with 20 passengers and one flight attendant sustaining minor injuries, using the evacuation slides. Hijackings. The 767 has been involved in 6 hijackings, 3 resulting in loss of life, 188, for a combined total of 282 occupant fatalities. 190 on November 23, 1996, Ethiopian Airlines Flight 961, a 767-200ER, was hijacked and crash-landed in the Indian Ocean near the Comoro Islands after running out of fuel, killing 125 out of the 175 persons on board. This was a rare example of occupants surviving a land-based aircraft ditching on water. 2 767s were involved in the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center in 2001, resulting in the collapse of its 2 main towers. American Airlines Flight 11, a 767-200ER, crashed into the North Tower, killing all 92 people on board, and United Airlines Flight 175, a 767-200, crashed into the South Tower, with the death of all 65 on board. In addition, more than 2,600 people were killed in the towers or on the ground. 211, a failed shoe bomb attempt in December 2001 involved an American Airlines 767-300ER. Incidents. The 767's first incident was Air Canada Flight 143, a 767-200, on July 23, 1983. The airplane ran out of fuel at an altitude of about 41,000 feet. Eventually, the pilots had to glide with both engines out for almost 43 nautical miles, 80 kilometers, 49 miles, to an emergency landing at Gimli, Manitoba, Canada. The pilots used the aircraft's ram air turbine to power the hydraulic systems for aerodynamic control. There were no fatalities and only minor injuries. This aircraft was nicknamed Gimli Glider after its landing site. The aircraft, registered as CGUN, continued flying for Air Canada until its retirement in January 2008. In January 2014, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration issued a directive that ordered inspections of the elevators on more than 400 767s beginning in March 2014. The focus was on fasteners and other parts that can fail and cause the elevators to jam. The issue was first identified in 2000 and has been the subject of several Boeing service bulletins. The inspections and repairs are required to be completed. The airplane has landed at Madrid Airport. At last, I finished my journey by airplane. I felt very excited to step on the land of Europe in the morning on November 18, 2024. I arrived in Madrid's Adolfo Suarez Madrid Barajas Airport, which is the main international airport serving Madrid, the capital city of Spain. At 3,050 hectares, 7,500 acres, 30.5 square kilometers in area, it is the second largest airport in Europe by physical size behind Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. In 2019, 61.8 million passengers traveled through Madrid Barajas, making it the country's busiest airport as well as Europe's. The airport opened in 1931 and has grown to be one of Europe's most important aviation centers. Within the city limits of Madrid, it is 9 kilometers, 6 miles, from the city's financial district and 13 kilometers, 8 miles, northeast of the Puerta del Sol or Plaza Mayor de Madrid, Madrid's historic center. The airport derives from the adjacent district of Barajas, which has its own metro station on the same rail line, serving the airport. Barajas serves as the gateway to the Iberian Peninsula from the rest of Europe and the world, and is a key link between Europe and Latin America. Following the death of the first Spanish Prime Minister after Franco's dictatorship, Adolfo Suarez, in 2014, the Spanish Ministry of Public Works and Transport announced that the airport was to be renamed Aeropuerto Adolfo Suarez, Madrid Barajas. The airport is the primary hub and maintenance base for Iberia and Air Europa. Consequently, Iberia is responsible for more than 40% of Barajas' traffic. The airport has 5 passenger terminals: T1, T2, T3, T4, and T4S.